Hey, what's up, you guys? Peek out here in Singapore. We're creeping up on 500, and I've been slacking still. See, this is the difficulty for me. So I have so many things that come across my mind, from all of my various sources of inspiration, and I'm having trouble writing it all down and remembering to come back while I'm in that mood to come talk to you guys, because I know that if enough times goes by, that spark, that fire that is in the subject that I want to talk about kind of disappears. Hey, Celestine, thank you so much for joining me live. But today I really want to talk about the fact that, sometimes we really need courage in order to ask for something we want. And I think if I say it like that, it sounds really silly that I shouldn't need courage to ask for what I want. But I think it's very, very real in that we get nervous. We get nervous about what the answer might be. So we would rather not rock the boat. We would rather not knock the apple cart. Whatever the analogy is that you want to use, we get afraid to ask for what we want. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Um, for me, recently, this problem is in asking people to invest money to be able to learn from me instead of just taking from me for granted for free, right? I don't mind having pro bono sessions with people, but I also know that what I'm talking about, the way that I see the world, that's from years and years of hard knock life, university of cuts and scrapes kind of thing that I had to figure out for myself. And I'm not saying that you need money to access that information, but if you want my input, my specific know-how, how I'm going to make it practical in your life, I think that's worth some money. But I've been afraid to ask people for that because whenever you ask a question like that, the answer can go one of two ways. It could be a yes or it could be a no. And for the vast majority of us, that no is so terrifying that we'd rather not ask the question at all. I've heard people say things like, I don't ask questions I don't know the answer to. Yeah, okay, because that's a safe question. You know exactly what's going to happen next. But why don't you ask questions where you don't know the answer? Isn't that the point of asking a question? I was talking to a couple of people recently, and I feel that in relationships, this is major because what we don't say kind of fills up the room. We talked about the elephant in the room before, right? But why are we so afraid to speak our minds? Why are we so afraid to ask for what we want? And maybe it's precedent within the relationship itself. Maybe it's, you've asked for something before and that you got shot down or you were dismissed. It was, they made fun of the fact that you even asked for that, something like to that effect. So then you think twice before you ask for anything, but you're not doing anyone a service by not asking. And that's what I want people to understand. Yes, it takes courage to ask for what you want, but what's the flip side of not asking though? What happens when you don't ask? It kind of simmers inside of you, right? You still want what you want. It doesn't go away just because you didn't ask. But you tend to fester on that a little bit. It tends to boil and bubble below the surface until something happens where it kind of bursts through and has the potential to really upset some things in your life, rather than when you ask the question in the first place and the other person doesn't take you seriously. Yes, there's always the off chance that it doesn't go well. But what if your life could become better? What if by asking, they had no idea that you wanted that, and they also wanted that, and they were just too afraid to ask as well? I always think of it as, what if, what if I'm lip syncing the national anthem, right? And that's just me, but it's only me, it's no one else. What if everyone else was thinking the same thing I was, and they all lip synced the national anthem? What would happen then? It'd be very, very painfully obvious, right? But in that regard, shouldn't we always give importance to what we feel and what we want? Because what we want and what we feel gives way for thoughts about what we feel and whether we got what we wanted or not, and how we feel about those things, and then that becomes an action at some point. It all starts with what you feel. So if we don't want those things to turn into actions that aren't serving us, don't we need to give those feelings a voice? Don't we need to say something about those things that we really want? For example, for a very long time, I wanted something really, really simple. I wanted to wear my hair however I felt like wearing it when I went to school. My mom is very, very old-fashioned. She wasn't the kind of person who wanted to see me with my hair just flapping in the wind. She wanted it braided neatly, and, she wanted me to focus on schoolwork. Absolutely, yeah, I was good at schoolwork. That part I had down. I didn't have any problems with that. I was not distracted when it came to my schoolwork. What I was having trouble with was fitting with the people around me. Now, to have my hair parted in two and braided into two pigtails, and then it was so long that it was joined together at the bottom, when we lined up in school, people would walk past me and use my hair as if it was reins on a horse and pull on me. It was upsetting to me. It hurt my feelings. And to me, there was a very simple fix. If I no longer had to wear my hair like that, there would no longer be the need for people to make fun of me or act like I was a horse or something, you know? And so I asked for that, and I was ridiculed. It was like, no, you need to focus on your schoolwork and stuff. And maybe I didn't articulate all of what I wanted. I should have given her the backstory as well, so we could have come up with a compromise, but I didn't. I simply asked for what I wanted, and she took it as, oh, you're trying to be fancy, you're trying to be like cool and everything. I don't need you to be cool, I need you to be good at school. And so because I didn't say all of what I needed to say, and because she didn't think to ask any of those questions, it was left unsaid, and it became a problem for us. It was something that we ended up fighting about a lot as I grew up. Oh, I can't dress the way I want to, or I can have my hair the way I want to. And she not understanding where it was coming from, and me not explaining where it was coming from, that was something that was left unsaid. And that's where I think people get afraid to say anything, because at some point we're going to have to justify why we want that, why we need that, why are we asking in the first place. So listening, you said, yes, there is that off chance, but if you want it, just yes. And it seems simple enough, right? Until you have to go sit in front of that person and ask. We are afraid to ask for raises. We are afraid to ask to switch shifts with people. We are afraid of people judging us based on what we're asking for. And it's in every area of life for most everyone. Because we're not taught how to ask. We're not taught how to receive questions like that and then ask questions in return to really understand where the other person is coming from. We're taught to ask yes or no questions. We're not taught how to have a discussion about things so we can make things better. And I think that's something that's severely lacking in our system, in our society, in our culture. I feel like if more people were willing to have a discussion, we would be able to transcend the current understanding of what a discussion is. People think of, having a discussion within a relationship as, how was your day? Okay, cool. Did you have lunch? Okay, cool. Are you going to sleep now? Because I'm gonna go to sleep later. That's the height of discussion, y'all. Seriously, like, no, thank you very much. I would rather talk to a robot, because that's essentially what we're doing. But why not dig into those things? Why not talk about the highs and lows of your day? Why not talk about, the experience of being around certain people, and why maybe you're looking at shying away from certain people going forward? How about discussing ideas? We don't talk about parenting as a couple before we have kids. We talk about those things when the situation arises, which, how is that supposed to be helpful? How are we ever prepared then for anything that happens in our lives? We don't talk about things until they happen. We don't discuss what, in event of someone's death, what life would look like after that. Why? Because it's uncomfortable. Why would we think about morbid things like that? But we need to talk about those things. That is what intimacy is. The exchange of ideas. And maybe we don't agree on the same things, but wouldn't you want to know preventatively rather than when that situation happens, so then we fight about it because we're not on the same page? We assume that everyone believes the same way we do. But that's the beauty of life itself. None of us believe the same things. All of us believe different versions of our own truth. And in order for us to become a stronger unit as a collective, as part of the human race, we need to be open to the idea of really discussing what's on our minds. And there's so much fear behind, what would people think? This is why sarcasm is awesome, right? This is why memes are just the way everyone speaks now. We're just going to post a meme so everyone can laugh. But in the background, low-key, passive-aggressively, you really do believe what's being said in that meme. Celestine, you said real communication at every level in your life. Yes, we need that. We really, really need that. Don't wait until the last minute where you have no choice but to discuss it because it's pressing matter now. Give it some space. Give it room to breathe and grow. Talk about these things on level 1 in the beginning of your dating career, your life. And then as things go by, revisit those same things. Just because you spoke about it once doesn't mean, okay, we're settled now, we know what we're going to do. Things change, people change. With every book that you read, with every episode of something that you see, you change, you evolve. If you spoke to me 10 minutes ago, literally 10 minutes ago, I don't know if I would have had this kind of a fire about this specific subject. And honestly, I don't even know if I would have spoken about this subject when I got on live, about asking. 10 minutes ago, I was having a conversation with a very, very old family friend of mine, and we were discussing the fact that he was uncomfortable with something that had recently happened in his life. And I felt badly for him. I was over here thinking, men really don't have the space to speak about the things they need to be speaking about because it's not cool. It's not manly. And perhaps 10 minutes ago, I would have spoken about giving men more space. But ultimately, something happened. I went and made coffee. I got ready to sit down and have breakfast. And while I had breakfast, I'd go look for something to learn, to include in my day's thoughts. And lately, I've been obsessed with Life Book by John and Missy Butcher. The people who are behind Precious Moments, that conglomerate, yeah. But Life Book is this amazing tool that they've created where you get to organize your thoughts about life and what you want and where you are and how you get to where you want to be. But it's very true. In a relationship, and I've told you this a million times in a row, my definition of relationship is where you speak to the same people more than once. That's a relationship already. If I meet you one time, hey, how are you? That's cool. That's not a relationship. If I happen to cross your path one more time and we have another communication, another conversation of some sort, that becomes a relationship. That's the beginning of a relationship. It may be a friendly relationship. It may be a coworker relationship, but it's still a relationship. I still need to show up. I still need to be myself. I still need to make sure that I am truthful to who I am when I speak to you. That is a relationship to me. So when he was explaining these, these categories of life that we need to really make sure we pay attention to and include in all of our decision making to have the real robust, holistic kind of life that all of us are looking for, where we thrive in every area. We're not like really good at this, and this, and then not so good at those things either. I'm talking about in every area of our life, we lift ourselves up continually. It means that we need to not be so scared to ask for the things we want. When they say nothing ventured, nothing gained, absolutely. If I don't ask you, I don't give you the chance to respond. Now, obviously, there are a couple things that go into the asking, too. It depends on how I ask. It depends on the mood in which I'm in when I ask. The intention I set behind what I'm asking. I need to be really open to whatever answer there is, but ask because I really want this. There was a time where I stopped asking my mom for stuff because I knew the answer was going to be no. So I just stopped asking. When I wanted a class ring for high school, I knew right now my mom's going to list these things. She's going to say, we don't have the money right now. You have 2 other brothers behind you. We need to make sure that they have money for the things that they need as well. This is not life or death. It will not kill you if you don't have a class ring. You will be okay. So I didn't ask. I stopped wanting. This is something I talked about in the last podcast episode, right? I taught myself not to want. Because I had to look at, on the grand scale of things, was this really important to my life, or was this another thing that I was going to carry around? So I didn't ask for a class ring. And then years later, when my brother got a class ring, I was jealous. I was like, dang, how come you asked? He was like, well, I wanted it, so I asked. And lo and behold, the answer was yes for him. And for a while, I told myself the story that, oh, it's because my mom doesn't like me so much, but she likes him better. Nope, I didn't ask. I didn't give her the chance to say yes or no. We didn't have a chance to have a discussion about whether this meant a lot to me or not. I just kind of put it by the wayside. Another example, I was invited to do a summer internship program with Johns Hopkins when I was in high school. My math teacher put me up for it because she thought I had the brain enough, the capacity enough to be able to really excel in the medical field. And it was something I really wanted as well. And she was like, you know what, you should do this. And when the information came, I was so excited. And then I looked down, it was a price tag attached to it. And I was like, Lord, I know we can't afford this. So without giving my mother and father the chance to even decide if this was something that they wanted to try and accommodate, I just told them it was too expensive and I couldn't make it. It's okay. I don't want it that bad. So imagine the amount of opportunities we've turned down because we were too afraid to ask. Too afraid to ask. And I've done that thousands of times. There are millions of examples I could give you. Anytime we went to a theme park and I wanted to get on a roller coaster really bad, but I was also afraid of the roller coaster. I wanted to try it, but I was afraid. And the fear would give out and I wouldn't ask. They would be like, okay, who wants to go? And I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to stand here. But when those kids came off the roller coaster, I'm like, oh my God, it was so awesome. I was like, I want to go. And that's when I would ask. And my mom would be like, well, we asked you before. Why'd you do it now? We can't do it now. We have other things we need to be doing. So I'd be mad, like, oh, whatever, oh. But I didn't have the courage. But this is where you learn to work that muscle. You ask. You use your courage muscle in every chance you get. Ask. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that can happen is the same thing that would happen if you didn't ask. You won't have what you want. But what if you got what you were asking for? The what if goes both ways, y'all. You forget. What if it goes wrong? Yeah, well, what if you get what you want? Or what if you get halfway there and they challenge you to meet, to figure it out the rest of the way? That'd be better than nothing, right? That's encouraging a little bit, yeah? Stop being afraid to ask. Stop being afraid to tell people how you're feeling about things. It's important that they know you feel a certain way. It's important that you voice that opinion because then you're standing up for yourself. No, it's not meant to be easy. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not normal in this world. But you know what? Damn it, it should be. And that alone should be enough for you to be like, you know what? I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask with optimism in my heart and be ready for whatever answer comes up, because once they say yes or no, I know what to do next. I know what to do next. Maybe the answer is no, and then you decide, okay, how bad do I really want this? Did the no make me feel angry, or did it make me feel like, okay, yeah, it's really not that important? If it's angry, use that fire, go fight it, go figure out how you're going to get it anyway. If it's really one of those, okay, it's really not that important, how important is this? Let's look at this. Then fine, analyze it again, see what you really actually want. Is it really worth it? Do you really want to spend that time, that money, that energy, whatever? Figure it out. What if the answer is yes, and you get what you want? That gives you a little bit of feedback. It gives you a little bit of momentum to ask again later, right? You ever notice those people that, ask you for, spot me $20, I need something, right? And once you say yes and you give them $20, don't they feel good about coming to ask you again? Have you noticed that? Oh yeah, you'll be on my go-to list to ask for money from now on. Until you say no. And then suddenly, they don't come around no more because their ego is hurt. But they asked. Get used to asking. Get used to asking. Yes, there's a level of anxiety that comes up when you want to say something, but you can't. But once you look at the reality, what's the worst that could happen? And that's how I got rid of my anxiety. What's the worst that could happen? Okay, you know what? Maybe I don't have the money today, and I need to do this by Saturday, and I have like a couple of days left, and I need to figure this out. If I ask someone for help and they say no, then I know I can't go here. I could do this instead. I need to start looking at other creative ways to make the money. It becomes this muscle you work. It becomes how you fuel your imagination. But you won't know unless you ask, you guys. And I want to encourage you guys, just ask. Ask as humbly and politely as you can. Be open to whatever answer, and whatever answer you get, be ready to take action next. If that person doesn't have it to give, or doesn't have information to share, isn't able to guide you to where you need to be next, fine. You learn a little bit more about that person. Maybe that's not their expertise. Maybe you're asking for a skill set like photography. Can you help me with this? And they're like, I'm really not good at this. I can't help you. I'm sorry. Or maybe they're busy and they don't have the time to help you. Fine. Well, who do you know? Who else do you know? How can you make this work? But ask. Because the last thing you want is to be, to have had to do it yourself and think about, if so-and-so would help me though. Yeah, but you ain't never ask. How you gonna know if they can help you if you don't ask? Be responsible for your life. Be proud of your life and the things that you do want and don't want. Ask for the things you want. Ask for help when you need it. The worst that can happen is somebody isn't in a space where they can help you. That's the worst that can happen. And even then, if that's the worst, guess what happens next? You know that you need to turn to something else. You need to look for yourself. Maybe you need to teach yourself. Maybe you need, maybe you need a selfie stick to figure out how to take the pictures by yourself. And I'm giving you that example because I'm wrestling with the idea of creating a vlog at the moment. I don't know shit about shit. I can take some selfies. I can shoot a video where my face is most of the frame. But I don't know how to do lifestyle videos where I'm talking about, shooting what I'm doing at the moment that I'm doing it. And a lot of it is not staged. I don't know how to do that. And yeah, I could use a selfie stick, but it'd be cool if I had a third person, but I don't have a third person, so I need to figure that out. I need to figure it out. But I know this is something I want to do because this has been on my heart for a little bit now. It's been gearing up since June. It's about to be August. I need to do something about it. You don't know until you ask. Please stop being afraid to ask. I love you guys. I hope this helped. I'll talk to you soon.